Well, welcome back to this UIPlanner training course. We're going to have a little bit more training on the interface file. In a prior video, we talked about the model import functionality and how to use that, but we didn't have a chance to cover exactly how to create the interface file. So I'm starting here with the Excel file that I use to create the interface file of fuel and purchase power cost for Nevada Power. So you can see here the file has the interface codes for the planning entity, Nevada Power Company, the line, and the report. Now in this one I refer to it as the item ID, but pretty much this is the line here. Now you can see I have not just for the cost, but I also have some other little bits of detail that come from the risk run file that Dave Mayer provides from Resource Optimization. And you'll notice here that some of this information goes to different reports. Even though it's the same planning entity that they roll over, they go to different reports. So like fuel and purchase power report, wholesale revenue report, one of Nevada Power's deferred energy calculation reports, and that's about it, those three. And you can also notice that we have like these forward slashes. As we said in the prior video, these forward slashes basically tell the model to ignore these particular lines. And the reason why you might want to have that is like maybe there's certain information that's only for presentation purposes. So like obviously these lines, these cells right here, they're just for presentation, just to help you understand what this information is, what each column means. And it doesn't go into UIPlanner. It's just there for usefulness and understanding the import file. And the lines that don't have these forward slashes at the very beginning, those are the lines that are actually getting loaded. Like in this case, from row 5 to row 22, these are the only ones that would actually get loaded. These ones, that one, and that one. And you can see here, the reason why I have a whole swath of this area right here with these forward slashes is because what I did was I gathered each individual information that I need for, in this case, for like renewable cost to calculate the RBTER for Nevada Power. I had a formula here for each one of those and go out and gather that information from the risk run file, and then I added it up here at the bottom, as you can see. And that's what I loaded. I loaded the total, not each individual one. So that's one way just to kind of like use the interface file, is you can use it to gather information. It can also be your summary report, and you can just convert your summary report into an interface file. And as like I said before, this one is set up to be time across, but if you're loading information every month, then maybe this format is not useful to you. Maybe like loading every month. Maybe you want to load it so that you have like maybe three qualifiers: the year, the month, and then a value. Kind of like we showed in the previous video on the model import on how we load information for the ledger. So when I load information, which is basically actuals, which is typically one of the reasons why you would want to load just 1 month at a time, is because you're trying to load actuals, and usually you get actuals every month, and so that's why you would load only 1 month. But for forecasting purposes, considering the fact that we go out several years into the future, usually time across or values across is typically the norm, and is probably what you would use the most. Now there is a possible one where you could use like one column. This column can be like all the years, so 2018 could be like all the way down, and then maybe 2019, and then 2020, 2021, etc., etc. And instead of doing across, and then you would have January here, February, March, April, all the way to December, and then you would just, instead of going out several lines, it would like end like roughly about here. That would be blank after this point. And so instead of organizing it across, you would organize it going down. That's another way to do it. Now, you'll have to work with your admin to figure out what's the best solution for you and the data that you're trying to consolidate or summarize and load into UIPlanner. He can help you, or she can help you with trying to figure out what's the best possible solution for the particular data that you have. Now, once you have all this information ready, and you want to create an interface file, you can't just simply just load an Excel file into UIPlanner. You can't do that. You have to, or you can't even just like save this as one tab within Excel file and expect to load that into UIPlanner either. So what you have to do is you have to have the UIPlanner add-in available to you, and it has all these items that are available to you to do with the data for UIPlanner purposes. The one here that we want to use is save as text. Now if we click this, you'll notice that the first thing that happens is that I just want to see if I can make this a little bit larger, but I can't. But I want to just show you, I'll go all the way to the left. You see, we're saving to this is in the U drive MVC folder, and these are the folders that I'm using for my information. That's how I organize it when I create these interface files. Now, what you'll notice is that it automatically tries to save it where this file is saved. So this 2018 Fall Plan MPC Risk Run interface file that I created, which basically is the Risk Run file with the UIPlanner tab that we're looking at right here, then it's basically going to try to save it in the same location where that's saved. As you can see, it starts with the file name, which has the XLXX extension, then a exclamation point, and then it puts the tab name. See, we were on a tab and you can't see it here, but the tab name here is called UIPlanner. And then what it does is it adds .txt, because really what we're doing is that when you create an interface file, we're going to convert this tab into a tab delimited text file. Now, if you don't like this name, what you could do is you could just simply just delete this, and you could just say, oh, I don't want that. I want to save it like that. Or you could rename it however you want. Fall Plan 2018 cost of sales. You could also change the folder that you want to save it in. Maybe you don't want to save it there. Maybe you want to save it in the sources folder. However you want to do it, this is basically totally flexible. The only one caveat is that make sure you save it as a text file, which is this .txt at the end. Just make sure that that is at the end of whatever you're trying to save. And then when you're ready, then you can hit save. The other option too here is that if you have already created one before and you can't remember how you named it, you can also hit the browse, and you can look up the file where you saved it. Now I know this is not a very nice, neat way to look up things, but I believe if you use this often, I think it'll save that information. So I'm not going to go through this all the way, but here you see here I go to here, sources 2018 cost of sales, and you can see here's that file that I created. Actually, that's not the one. There's one in there. Okay, right there. See how it's the same. I actually take off the UIPlanner tab name and I just name it the same as the Excel file. The reason why I do that is because then I know that this tab delimited file is from this Excel file because it's the exact same name. Now you might want to save different versions of your tab delimited file, that's fine, but I find that's confusing. You can just simply overwrite your old one by simply selecting it or whatever, or you can, oh shoot, I guess it doesn't remember where you were before. I apologize for that. But if you close this and you hit save a text again, it brings it back up. I typically save it right where the Excel file is anyways, and so typically you don't really need to use this browse. But if you already know how the file was saved, like in this case I deleted all this part, and then what happens is if you label it the same name as a file that's already existing in the folder, it'll just overwrite it. Now sometimes you have to be careful about when you create these files, that if you have, like, let's say you have like these forward slashes that basically tell it to ignore these particular lines, but let's say that you have a number like right here, or you have an error here like this, right? What if you had that and there's no forward slashes here? What will happen is that when you try to output this or create an interface file, it'll say there's 2 rows that have errors, this one and this one, and it'll save it to the text delimited file. But when you try to go into the model import, it's gonna say, well, we can't load this. So if you get that, just go back to your import file, delete these, or what you can do is you can just go boom, you can put forward slashes in there for those lines. So like, let's say you have more lines in here that have calculations in them, that sum things, that you just want to sum this, but you don't want that loaded in the UIPlanner, but you want to keep this. Just put a forward slash over here into the far left, so that next time when the model tries to load it, it just will ignore this. You'll see it in the model import, but it just won't try to load it. So just to give you an idea of what these text delimited files look like, so I'll just take this one that we created for the fall plan. I'll just open it briefly for you. So this is kind of what it looks like. See, it's a text tab delimited file. So what I mean by that is that every time it has a cell, it tabs over, tabs over, tabs over, tabs over, tabs over. That's why it has all these, looks like what they look like spaces, but really what they are is tabs. See? Tab. And that's really what it's creating. It's creating a text tab delimited file. And if you want to learn more about text tab delimited files, you can Google it. And so that concludes our training video on how to create an interface file. Thank you for watching.